Hello, entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Laura L. Bernhard. Welcome back to the Marketing Bound podcast, where we help you leverage inbound marketing strategies to grow your business. This week, we have a great episode with the CEO of Social Republic, Rob Illidge. Rob takes us through 5 proven steps to get started on Pinterest and strategies on how to make Pinterest work for your business. As someone who isn't familiar with the platform, I ask all the questions you probably have, like, why isn't my one pin working? How many hashtags to use, and if you should invest in a scheduling tool. If you're thinking of leveraging Pinterest for your business, this episode is for you. Be sure to listen to the very end and subscribe to the Marketing Bound podcast for more inbound marketing strategies. Rob, thank you so much for being on the Marketing Bound podcast. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm super excited because we're really going to get into Pinterest. And that's really a social media. Like I do social media, email marketing, all those things, but Pinterest is one of those things where I just never really sank my teeth into. And so like I do have an account. I pinned like 4 things and then I was like, how does this work? So
sounds familiar.
Yeah. So, and I feel like a lot of people have been asking me like, oh, we need an episode about Pinterest. So
Yes. No pressure.
yeah, no. I know there's a lot to cover. So we're probably going to have a second episode, but let's just start with some basics. Can you just tell us a little bit about Pinterest and maybe how you started using it, just to give people a little bit of a background?
Sure. I've just been on a call with Pinterest this morning, which it makes it even better and even more relevant, I would say. So I've got lots of data in my head, which is nice. Thank you, Pinterest. I've not been paid by Pinterest. I wish it was.
It seems like it.
One day, other platforms are available. I feel like Pinterest is really underrated by businesses. That said, there's 459 million people using it every single month, so it can't be that underrated. It's just when brands come to our agency, they never seem to have a Pinterest strategy in place, or they never really look at it as a social network they could be using, either because they offer services and they don't see those services as products or something they could promote. So Pinterest is a little bit different to other social networks in that it's more of a search engine, and it's actually the 3rd most used search engine behind Google and YouTube. I believe it's the most popular used search engine as far as social networks go that isn't owned by Google. So you're looking at a lot of searches. So it's very visual. You create boards with particular themes, and then you would pin your content to it. And one thing that's great about Pinterest is it encourages you to link back to your own website, whereas every other network, if you post on LinkedIn or Facebook, if you include an external link, it would generally demote that post, and it's kind of a big no-no.
Yeah, that's
whereas
so true.
Pinterest actively encourages you to do it, so it's always having that in the back of your mind.
Okay, that's amazing. So then tell us how service-based businesses can leverage Pinterest. Because right now it seems like, okay, you have a product, you promote the product, you link it back to your website, and then there's like the transaction there. But in terms of a service-based business, does there have to be an extra layer of strategy? Explain that to us a little bit.
No, I don't think there has to be an extra layer of strategy. I think the first thing you need to do is have that strategy in place. So if you are a service-based business, how can you create those services into products or something visual that you can share? And the easiest way is to describe it is using one of your blogs. So you have your blog content, and you then create an image that would promote that particular blog on Pinterest and make it stand out. And we'll go into that a little bit later. But there's lots of things that service businesses can do. And in terms of strategy, we usually look at 5 things. The first one being goals. So what do you want to achieve? And at the end of every week, every month, when you report back, have you achieved those goals and what do they look like? The second one being one of the most important is audiences. So check that your audiences are on Pinterest, first of all. A lot of brands make the mistake of thinking we need to be on every single social network when their audience might actually sit within a couple social networks. Content as well. So how can you create content that stands out amongst, really, really busy feeds? Pinterest obviously being one of them. And then you can use things like Pinterest predicts. Trying to get those words out is really difficult. I've just said Pinterest so much recently. I'm finding it hard to get it out. You can use Pinterest predict to look at trends and what people are searching for that week in your country and what's trending. And then finally look at measuring performance. So how are you going to measure what you've achieved that week or that month, and what kind of success looks like to you. And then generally just make sure you're squeezing everything out of content by linking back to your site. Make sure you're always getting traffic back to your site.
Okay, I've never heard of Pinterest predicts. Is that part of Pinterest?
It's hard to say, right?
Yeah,
imagine you had a few drinks.
I stumbled a little bit there, but I've never even heard of it. Is that like a separate? Is that like Google Analytics to Google?
Yeah, so it's publicly available. You can go on Pinterest predicts. I really think they didn't think about this before they came up with the name. It's so hard to get out. I'm going to try it after a few beers.
Record it for us.
Yeah, God. Yeah. So yeah, you can go on. It's a new feature, and you can go on and you can search for, say, if you're an online coach for new moms, whatever it may be. You can search for that and you can see what the trends are. So is it going up? Is it going down? And it's something that the trends are very, very important in terms of the algorithm. So if more people are actively searching for that pin, you've got more chance of being seen within that feed.
So that would be a great tool to determine if your audience is on Pinterest.
Yes. So yeah, you would look at very similar to Google Analytics, looking at Google keyword research. Put yourself in the shoes of your customer. What are they searching for? Don't think, oh, this is what I do, because we are terrible at it. As a social media agency, as a lot of agencies are, we write content, or we try not to now, but traditionally agencies and other businesses will write content as they understand it and not what people are actively searching for. So put yourselves in your customer's shoes, and it might be female, 25 in a particular city, but it could be someone who's your other audience persona could be 40 years old male in a different city. So put yourselves in their shoes and think what they would be searching for, and search those trends and see if people are actively searching.
Okay, so then let's go through an example just quickly to go through those five steps. So Let's say I'm a personal trainer and I am targeting millennials. No, millennials is too big of a 25 years of generation. I'm targeting 25 to 30-year-olds, women who want to do weight training, whatever.
Perfect. Yeah.
So that's my target audience. I use Pinterest Predict to determine whether or not they're on the platform. And I don't know if this is an assumption or if this is true, but my thinking is that more women use Pinterest.
Yes. Yeah. You're absolutely right. There are more women. I think it's around about, I want to say about 86% female. Yeah, something like that. I'll dig out the actual stat. But yeah, generally female focused. With Pinterest Predicts, it's more around what people are actively searching for and how they're engaging with pins, as opposed to audiences. There is information out there in terms of audiences, but yeah, it's more around kind of activity than anything.
Okay, so then we figure out, let's say they are on Pinterest, beautiful. And now in terms of goals, I guess we can choose like traffic to the website, conversions.
Lead generation. If you could test, say if you're running ads as well, you could test lead generation on one landing page or your home page, or another site. It could be that could be one of your goals.
Okay, so I opened a Pinterest account. I posted 4 pins. I got like 16 views, and that was it. How long does it take for things to start to take off, especially if people are just creating an account like right after this episode?
Yeah, it's funny you say that. It's very difficult across other platforms, other social networks to, I guess, go viral with a new account, because a lot of algorithms favor accounts that have been active and are consistent. Pinterest is a bit different. We've seen research that has seen accounts with just maybe a couple of hundred followers actually go viral and really stand out in the feed, and be seen by a lot of people, as opposed to somebody who say has 40,000 kind of followers. So it is possible on Pinterest, and you just have to be consistent and constantly test new pins and new boards.
Okay, so that comes down to the actual content that you're posting on Pinterest. And
Yes.
I heard, and I don't know if this is true, that you have to post or pin like 4 times a day. Is that true?
I don't know about that particular statistic, but there are certain times which are said to be better to post at. Again, it comes down to who your audience is. So if it's a new mum, for example, they're generally going to be up quite late, putting the child to bed, early, 5, 6, 7 p.m. And then they would actively engage with social media. So the 2 times are between 8 p.m. and 11 p.m. and interestingly between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m.
Is that your time or my time?
I guess it's general across the board. It's not UK or Canada time. It's
really
kind of everything. Yeah, and
okay.
I guess it is because no matter where you are in the world, say if you're in the UK and you're posting at 11 p.m., you're still catching people earlier in Canada, for example, whereas I'm still catching people here, just before they go to bed, that sort of thing, where people are scrolling through the feeds. So those are the 2 times that have come out. But again, it's always worth testing, just to see how audiences react, what times. But those are the 2 times that have come up.
Okay, so we have. Oh, I think I missed the 4th step of that strategy.
Sure.
What was after content?
So it's goals, audiences, content, and then trends, which is where
trends.
You kind of Pinterest predict will come in, and then it's kind of around measurement.
So what do you mean by trends though? Is that like paying attention to the trends on Pinterest?
Yeah, so what people are actively searching for, what people are engaging with.
Okay. So in terms of like what people are typing in.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so let's say someone's listening to this episode, they're like, oh my gosh, I can kill it on Pinterest. They create an account. Does it have to be like a business account?
Yes, if you want analytics and everything else,
okay.
Definitely. Yeah, that should be the first kind of thing that you do, is create that business account and make sure you sign up for that.
Okay, so they start a business account and then they post 1 pin. Because like I posted, I don't know, like 3-4 pins. I have 0 followers still.
Yeah.
So maybe it's because I didn't go into like the trends to see if people were actually searching up what I was pinning about. But for someone who's going to do this right after this episode, what are like the first like 3-4 things that they need to do?
Sure. And also I found the statistic. It's actually 66% female, not 86.
Okay.
Age 25 to 34 is the kind of highest range. Obviously, it depends on.
If that's your target audience, then Pinterest is ideal for you.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely.
Okay.
So the 4 things that you kind of need to do, and these are kind of 4 steps in terms of pleasing the algorithm gods, I guess, if you will, sort of thing. The first one is kind of checking what's at home, and what I mean by that is your domain quality is one of the first things that the algorithm will look at. So if you can have the most amazing Pinterest boards, but then the website you're linking back to is A, not trustworthy, or B, not relevant, Pinterest it gets kind of turned off, and it just says, no, this isn't kind of, you're not giving the best journey to users ultimately. So that's kind of number one. So get your kind of, get from the home sorted out first.
Okay. What's the second?
Second one is pin quality. So then it comes down to how popular or current a pin is. And you can judge this by, it basically judges this by engagement signals. So it's how people interact with your pin on Pinterest. So how popular it is, which you can improve by obviously looking at trends and what's popular.
Okay, because I was going to say, I'm like, nobody is engaging with my one pin.
And what you can do is you can basically take what we do as an agency when we're working with a brand strategy for Pinterest is we'll look at kind of the keywords they're looking to target or ones that we think are relevant, and we'll look at the feed and what Pinterest gives us, and we'll try and create a piece of content that if we gave it to 100 people say, wow, that that is the first pin that stands out. We're just trying to make it so it stands out so much in that feed because you're competing against so many things. So yeah, in terms of your pin structure, it's judged by those sort of engagement signals. So how many people are saving it, how many people are clicking through.
Okay, so then also looking at competition.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, and then what's next?
Then it comes down to you as a pinner, your quality. So again, being consistent, very much like the Instagram algorithm, where it will not just look at what you're posting out, but your engagement with other accounts. If that makes sense. So you're not just sat there just creating content. You're actually actively engaging with other accounts.
So you need to spend some time on other people's accounts and like pinning them, I guess, or clicking through.
Yeah, so commenting, clicking through, engaging with other pins. It's a bit like, I don't know if anyone else has this analogy with SEO, but the way I describe it is very similar to SEO. It's like building a house. So your bricks and mortar, or in England, everything's built with bricks, but your outside of your house is kind of your structure, and say we're talking about SEO terms, it would be your website, structure, SEO, that sort of thing. And then everything inside, your couches, your cushions, everything that's kind of fluffy is your content, and it's very much the same. So you need to make sure that you have that bricks and mortar in place first, your structure in place first. So making sure your account is up to date, it links back to the right pages, your biography is kind of optimized, and then things. So those sort of things are up to date. And then 4 kind of key questions to ask yourself is, or what Pinterest will ask is, how often do you pin? Do you pin actively and consistently, which is very important? How many saves and comments do you get? And then do you save Pinterest views as high? Do you save content that Pinterest views as kind of high quality? So if you're also saving high quality pieces of content, it will see that as a positive signal.
Okay. So if my website has a bad domain authority, so this is like the Google ranking that Google gives it, is it worth going on Pinterest?
I still think so. Yeah, I think if you're still building that domain authority, if your website is totally relevant to the pins that you're posting out, or you're posting a pin with a link to a page that is completely relevant, then I think, absolutely. Yeah, I think it would be detrimental to not start activity just before you got your domain authority up. You can kind of do the two at the same time. Okay,
so then let's say I'm an entrepreneur and my interests are my business, my personal training business, but I also like cooking. If I interact with pins that are not related to my business, is that gonna like do weird things with the algorithm?
Not really. You could mention in your biography that you're interested in those, and then what you would do is, the most important thing is to have separate boards. So Pinterest really looks at relevance, so topic relevance. So if you publish a new pin, Pinterest assigns it to a specific topic using keywords. So just like any other search engine, Pinterest is heavily focused on knowing why, where, and how to use right keywords. So make sure that everything that is going within those boards is relevant to that particular topic, and the same with hashtags, which we could talk about. for ages.
Okay, then let's talk about hashtags a little
Oh
bit.
no.
just a little bit, okay? Because I feel like it's
Sure.
super important. So you post a pin, is there like a minimum number of hashtags that you should be posting?
Well, definitely one for a start.
Okay, guys, everyone write this down. A minimum of one hashtag.
There you go. If you've got anything from this, just use one hashtag.
Okay.
There's two things to remember. Use hashtags where they can be clicked, so where they're clickable. So you can use that in your description, in your post, in your pin, and you can use them in comments as well, which is very interesting. So you don't want to kind of spam people, but they can be used in comments too. There's certain areas on your Pinterest account that they just not worth putting in there. You're better off with better quality. I'll actually read something for you that Pinterest has said, so it's kind of coming from the horse's mouth. So Pinterest has said, when inserting a hashtag, we recommend you be specific and descriptive. Use words or phrases that describe the content in the pin. We suggest you add no more than 20 hashtags per pin. So they're saying no more than 20. So obviously minimum of one, maximum 20.
Okay. I wasn't expecting that many.
Yeah, it's not as many as people use on Instagram, but the sweet spot we've found from research is between 2 and 8. But,
okay.
Yeah, which is a bit of obviously a weird number, but again, it can be slightly subjective. So just keep testing it and test again. Try 8 and then try 2 and then see what happens. Try a combination. The best thing to do is just imagine. I was going to say imagine someone had a gun to your head, but maybe not that extreme. But if somebody said to you, right, I'm going to give you $1 million or whatever, if you pick the best hashtag, you can only pick the best hashtags. Just think of just the ones that are relevant. Don't try and spam them. Don't try and put too many in. Just make it really, really, really relevant.
So for my personal training business, it would be hashtag personal training, hashtag women.
Yeah, you might find that women is too broad, because if you're, and then you might think, are people searching for, if I'm a woman searching for personal training services, am I going to search hashtag women? I'm going to search women. So maybe not, but you could combine it. So you could have women, and then you could have personal training for women. Or
okay. So you have to be a little bit more specific.
Yeah, try both. So some broad, some specific. So if you went on Pinterest, you might search home workouts for women. And then that could be many hashtags if it's relevant to what you're pinning.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. And then, so without going too deep into the hashtags, I think we did a good job.
Yeah, let's leave it there.
A brief overview. So I just want to shift gears here and talk about like the tools out there that can help you you leverage Pinterest for your business so that you're not constantly pinning, because that can take a lot of time. And I know there's one app called Tailwind.
Yes.
And actually one of the listeners, Eloise, who loves Pinterest, wants to know if it's worth investing into Tailwind for Pinterest.
Yes, great question. And other platforms are available, of course. Not being paid by Tailwind either.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, not yet. But no, I think there is a balancing act between platforms, and you'll find the more reputable ones are obviously have links with social networks. The ones that don't, you might kind of want to avoid because posts might get demoted. There are certain social networks that don't like you to schedule content. Pinterest not being one of those. So my thought is always, if it's saving you time and improving your creativity, then why shouldn't you use it? And I think something like Tailwind, especially for scheduling, is great. And I guess it really comes down to, again, audiences and goals. So understanding when your audiences are online, so then you can post at the right time and what you actually want to achieve. But yeah, I'm a big fan of kind of not automation, but time saving, I guess, by using these sort of platforms. So definitely.
I also know that one of the features of Tailwind is that they actually repin things for you. And I know I think it's an extra cost. So I'm wondering, is that also worth the investment? Because I don't know Pinterest well enough to know if repinning is good or bad.
Again, it would kind of please the algorithm in showing that you're active. What you just have to find a balancing act, because you don't want it to become too irrelevant. I've seen lots of cases of brands that use automation and they get into a lot of trouble with stakeholders because or users, because they're liking content they've put in a particular keyword, and then Instagram's gone crazy or this platform's gone crazy and they've liked loads of inappropriate content, or just things that aren't relevant. So just make sure you're being as specific as possible when using those sort of tools, and just keep an eye on what it's actually doing. And then obviously it's doing the right things and it's saving you time, then keep using them. And then there's another feature where you can get other users to engage with your content. Now, I guess this is a whole nother issue, a whole nother topic. I guess it's quite controversial because some say it's kind of vanity metrics and they're just kind of engagement pods and they don't really mean anything. But at the same time, if they're relevant audiences, then maybe you should be using them.
So wait, what are they called?
So I'm not exactly sure what they're called on Tailwind, but they're like engagement pods. So you can join groups of different people based on your topic, and they will engage with your content, if that makes sense.
And you can do that on Pinterest.
It's on Tailwind. So this is a feature of Tailwind. But there are other ways you can do it. They're called engagement pods. They've been around for quite a while. You'll see them on even on LinkedIn now, where you'll see someone's got like 1,000 likes on a post and all the comments are just completely irrelevant. And some people like it just for vanity metrics, and others don't because it's not kind of relevant to what they're doing. So again, that should be a balancing act. Okay.
So before we end this interview, and I have to get you back on Marketing Bound podcast because there are so many other things we need to talk about.
Are you sure?
I think we can do like 3 episodes easily.
Yes,
but
definitely.
just before we end this one, I want to know if there's any kind of growth strategies that you can share with the audience so that they can apply all these steps, but then when it's maybe not working for them, they can fall back on this maybe one growth strategy that you can share with them.
Oh, that's a very good question. I would say stick to those 5 aspects of a strategy and look at those first of all, because if you don't have one, then if one kind of falls away, then you need them all together, if that makes sense. So you can move in kind of any order, but that's the order we found is the best in terms of number 1, looking at your goals, what you want to achieve. It makes you accountable then for the content you're producing. The second one is audiences. Create personas, give them names, give them job titles, how much they earn, everything like that. Really get to know them. The third one, content, definitely. So how can you create content that stands out on a busy feed? Even take a screenshot of that particular page based on the keyword you think or have found that your audience are using. Use things like Pinterest predicts for trends, live trends. And kind of finally, and number 5, how are you going to measure that? So what does success look like at the end of every day, every week, every month? Those are my kind of go-tos in terms of growth strategy.
Okay, but if something is not working, it has to be one of those 5 things.
I would say so, yeah. It's either audiences or content, and content can cover how it looks, how it's published, what time it's published, everything like that. It's usually one of those 2 in terms of audiences or content, and you've got to obviously do your research before, but generally would look at those 2 in particular.
Amazing. Well, Rob, I feel like this was such a good basics of Pinterest to
Yes.
I can go get started now. So that's amazing. Thank you so much. So just before we leave, tell everybody where they can work with you.
Okay, so I am the CEO of Social Republic, and the best place to find me, or where you'll definitely find me, is LinkedIn. If you haven't seen one of my memes already, then definitely follow me on LinkedIn, connect with me on LinkedIn. Or you can visit obviously our website, social-republic.co.uk. We work with ambitious, famous brands and brands with ambition to become famous.
Love it. I'm going to link all that in the show notes so people can find you easily. But thank you so much, Rob.
Thank you. Cheers.